Cole steps onto the crystal dais with a careful foot. He feels the hush settle over the grand hall. Pale pillars rise all around, each carved with strange glyphs that pulse with soft light. He wears his uniform of deep blue and silver, the human, insignia shining on his chest. Beyond the dais, rows of alien nobles stand silent and still. At the far end, the alien queen sits on her throne, a living jewel of grace and power. Cole's heart beats fast in his chest as he takes a steadying breath. The queen's skin is a subtle shade of lavender. Her eyes glow like pale stars, and her hair falls in long strands of silver. She lifts her hand and beckons Cole forward. Her lips curve into a warm smile that lights her entire face. Cole swallows hard, feeling the weight of centuries of distrust in that single gesture. He forces himself to step closer, keeping his shoulders straight and his voice calm. "Lieutenant Cole," the queen says in a soft voice that echoes around the hall, "welcome to RL7. Her words hold kindness. But Cole senses a deeper meaning behind them. He bows his head slightly and replies, "Your Majesty, it is my honor to serve as your envoy." A ripple runs through the assembly as his words reach every corner. No one expected such a simple greeting. Then the queen's expression shifts to one of joyful surprise. She leans forward and places a slender finger on Cole's shoulder. Her voice brightens like morning light. "We're having a baby, human." The words hang in the air, as if the hall itself waits for an echo. Cole feels his breath catch. He glances at the nobles on either side. Some stare in shock, others blink once or twice, uncertain if they heard correctly. Cole clears his throat, trying to find words. His mind races. How can this be true? The queen and a human, such a bond, has never been spoken of in any treaty or record. Yet here it is, offered as fact. He bows his head again, speechless for the first time in his life. Round him, a soft murmur begins, like wind through tall grass. Voices rise and fall, questions forming in thousands of hearts. The queen's smile deepens, and she places both hands on the arms of her throne. She looks at Cole with something like hope in her eyes. "This child will be a symbol of unity," she says, "a bridge between our peoples." Cole lifts his gaze, meeting her steady stare. He senses her confidence, her belief that this union can heal old wounds. He wants to share that hope, but fear lingers at the edge of his thoughts. Suddenly, an elderly noble steps forward. His scales are a deep emerald, and his eyes gleam with power. He bows low, but his voice rings clear. "Your Majesty, forgive me, but this is unprecedented. What assurances do we have that this union is true and lasting?" The queen's smile does not waver. Cole watches as she sets aside her regal calm and rises from her throne. Moving toward the noble with deliberate grace, she speaks in a tone that demands attention. "Your loyalty is not in question," she says. "I ask only that you meet Cole. As I do, judge him by his word and his heart. You will find both true." The noble's shoulders relax, and he inclines his head. Round them, the murmur quiets to a respectful hush. Cole feels a flicker of pride. In this moment, he is more than an envoy. He is the living proof of the queen's trust. The queen gestures again, this time beckoning Cole to stand beside her. He steps forward, awareness sharp in every nerve, standing side by side, the human and the alien shine under the glow of the crystal pillars. Cole imagines the headlines that will cross countless worlds. Aliens and humans unite in life. He fights a smile, knowing that history is being written in this hall, one breath at a time. As the assembly watches, Cole glances at the queen's eyes and sees warmth there, a promise he has not yet learned to keep. He wonders what the future holds for them both and for the child growing even now inside the queen. With a steady voice, he says, "Your Majesty, I am honored by your trust." The queen's smile blooms wider, and the hall seems to brighten. In response, beneath the silent carvings and pale light, Cole feels the weight of hope settle on his shoulders, eager for a glimpse of Cole himself. Whispers fill the corridor. "Is it true? Is this some trick?" Cole straightened his uniform jacket and walked forward. Each step echoed with 1,000 curious eyes. In the press hall, reporters crowded behind a barrier, flashing lights, and shouted, Questions met Cole as he stepped to the podium. "Lieutenant Cole," one reporter called. "How did the Queen choose you?" Another asked, "What assurances can you give that this child is safe?" Cole closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. He spoke slowly and clearly. "The Queen's word is her promise," he said. "I will do everything I can to protect her and the child." Cameras clicked and microphones leaned closer. Some faces showed relief, others suspicion. After the press event, Cole joined a meeting of the Human-Alien Liaison Council. Ambassadors in fine suits and alien robes sat around a curved table. Voices rose and fell as they debated treaties and future plans. One council member said, "This child could heal old wounds between our peoples." Another warned, "We must be cautious, there may be unforeseen risks." Cole listened without interrupting. When it was his turn, he spoke with calm conviction. "Unity takes courage," he said. "We cannot turn back now." Later, in his cabin quarters, Cole allowed himself a moment of quiet. He stared out at the stars and remembered how he first met Queen Alari. He recalled her gentle smile and the kindness in her voice. He felt both pride and fear. A soft chime announced an incoming message. It was from Dr. Samar, his friend and medical officer. The message read, "I have studies on alien pregnancy. Meet me in Lab 2. Cole tapped his communicator and replied, "On my way, in the genetics lab." Drive Samar greeted him with data pads full of charts. She explained how the alien physiology differed from human. Cole nodded as he absorbed each detail. "The Queen's signs are strong," she said. "We expect healthy development, but we must watch for any complications." Cole placed his hand on a console and took a steadying breath. "Thank you," he said. "I will support her in any way I can." Back on RL-7, Queen Alari walked through her private gardens. Bioluminescent flowers lit her path as she touched each petal. She thought of Cole and of the life growing within her. The plants seemed to glow brighter in response to her hope. Attendants bowed respectfully but steered clear of her private sorrow. She remembered the cautious looks on the nobles' faces and the fear in some hearts. Still, she held her head high, certain that this child would bring peace. That evening, Cole returned to his quarters to find a sealed holo letter from Alari. He activated it and her face appeared, warm and radiant. "Cole," she said softly, "I know this journey will be hard, but I believe in us." Cole watched her eyes shine with trust. His own heart tightened. He replied by holo, "Your Majesty, your trust gives me strength. I will stand by you always." He ended the message and let the glow of her image fade. As night fell, Cole stood once more at his viewport. Below him, starbase lights danced like distant stars. He thought of the weeks ahead, medical checks, diplomatic talks, preparations for the child's arrival. He felt the weight of both hope and responsibility settle on him. Somewhere among those lights, people would decide if this union was a blessing or a threat. Cole pressed his palm against the glass and whispered to the quiet of space, "We can do this." In the silence he found a promise. The Queen's baby would carry the future of two worlds. Cole turned away from the stars and walked to his bed, determined to face tomorrow with courage. The challenge was greater than any he had known, but his resolve was firm. After all, history had already begun to write itself and Cole would play his part. Cole woke early and packed a small bag for the journey back to RL-7. He dressed in his service uniform and checked his comlink. He felt both excitement and worry. The promise of peace weighed on his shoulders, but so did the threat of old fears. He took a deep breath and boarded the cruiser waiting on the pad. The ship's engines hummed as they lifted off. Through the viewport, Cole watched the stars draw closer. He thought of Queen Alari and the life she carried. He promised himself he would protect them both. The pilot announced their arrival time, and Cole spent the flight reviewing protocols for the diplomatic reception ahead. When they landed, a crowd of human and Auralian ambassadors gathered in the grand hall. Tapestries of both worlds hung side by side on the walls. The air was tense with curiosity. Some faces smiled, others wore frowns. Cole stepped forward beside the Queen, who held her head high and welcomed each delegate with a gentle nod. An elderly Auralian lord named Veshtor approached Cole first. His scales were dark green and his eyes silver. He bowed low and said, "Human, can you stand by her? Can your loyalty hold when others doubt?" Cole met his gaze. "I will stand by her with my life," he said plainly. Veshtor studied Cole's face for a long moment, then inclined his head in grudging respect. The queen raised her voice so all could hear. She spoke of unity and hope. She spoke of the child as a new bond between their peoples. Her words were soft but firm, echoing under the vaulted roof. The assembly listened in silence. Cole watched the faces around him and saw some eyes shine, while a few turned away. As the gathering broke into smaller circles, Cole joined a group of human envoys. One whispered, "This could be our greatest peace treaty." Another shook her head, "Or it could be a disaster." Cole kept his expression calm. He believed in the queen's vision. He knew the path would be hard, but he would end. Oti faltered. Suddenly, a court physician rushed in, carrying a diplomat who had collapsed near a bioluminescent fountain. The man gasped for breath, his throat swelling. Someone had released rare spores that irritated Raylan lungs. Cole and the queen sprang into action. He guided the physician's path and cleared space for medics to work. The queen placed a hand on Cole's arm, steadying him. The medics used an anti-inflammatory serum and quickly eased the diplomat's pain. Onlookers gasped, and then fell silent. Cole realized this was no accident. Someone still wanted to send a message of fear. He exchanged a look with the queen, whose eyes flashed with concern and anger. After the diplomat recovered, the queen spoke quietly to Cole. "We must move to safety," she said. "Our child deserves a calm home." Cole nodded. They planned to travel next to the moon Shadara, where an allied royal family offered a hidden sanctuary. The journey there would take hours, but it would be worth the peace it promised. In the shuttle bound for Shadara, the queen sank into a seat and closed her eyes. Cole took the seat beside her. He placed his hand gently on hers. She opened her eyes and gave him a small smile. The touch was a promise. He would protect them both at any cost. The ship's monitors displayed the baby's growth in holographic form. Cole watched the tiny shape float in the blue glow. He felt wonder and a gentle pride. He reached out, imagining he could touch the life inside the queen. She said, "I see our child's heart beating." Cole nodded, his voice soft. "I feel it, too." The queen leaned back and spoke of her childhood. She told Cole about lonely nights beneath starlit skies and hopes she dared not voice until now. Cole listened and shared his own memories of growing up on a frontier colony. They laughed at small memories and fell silent at others. Their bond grew stronger with every word. As they neared Shadara, the shuttle passed through coral rings that glowed faintly pink. Cole pressed his forehead to the window, marveling at the sight. The moon's surface was dotted with hidden gardens and crystal lakes. He felt hope that their child would grow in peace here. When they landed, allied guards in white and gold greeted them. They escorted Cole and the queen through archways draped in flowering vines. The air smelled sweet and warm. Cole could almost forget the tension he carried. He looked at the queen and saw relief in her eyes. That night, in quarters reserved for royalty, the queen sat by a window overlooking a silent lake. Cole stood guard at the doorway, his posture strict but his heart soft. He knew that tomorrow would bring new meetings and new challenge strength of their alliance. Alari smiled at him, her hand resting on the curve of her belly. He offered his arm, and they stepped between the guests, greeting each with respect. The air smelled of sweet spice and blooming vines. Musicians played gentle melodies on harp-like instruments as waiters served warm broth and roasted fruits. Delegates paused in their conversations to watch the queen and her human envoy move among them. Some bowed deeply, others offered nods of welcome. Many faces shone with wonder at Alari's pregnancy. Cole noticed how children peered in awe, picturing the first child of two worlds. He squeezed the queen's hand, reminding himself that every step they took here mattered. Suddenly, a faint hiss rippled through the room. Cole paused, his senses sharp. He saw three figures slip away from the crowd, their robes dark and faces hidden beneath masks. They carried small canisters stamped with forbidden symbols. Cole's heart raced as he realized the danger. These were saboteurs from the conservative Raylan faction, who opposed the Union. Alari felt a shift in the air and turned toward the figures, her eyes narrowing. Before Cole could move, the saboteurs released a cloud of shimmering spores. The pellets burst in midair, scattering tiny particles over the guests. A soft golden mist settled on the tables and draped over clothing. Cole saw a ripple of fear spread across the room. Some delegates clapped their hands over their faces. Others sank to their knees, gasping for breath. The spores caused an allergic reaction in many Raylan, swelling throats, stinging eyes, and tight chests. Panic threatened to overtake the banquet. Cole dropped to one knee beside the queen. He wrapped his coat around her, forming a shield as he guided her away from the mist. Alari coughed, her hand moving to her throat, her eyes filled with pain, but her voice remained clear. "Protect our people," she whispered. Cole lifted her gently, carrying her toward the open archway that led to the courtyard. Outside, fresh night air and cool breezes offered relief from the toxic cloud inside. "Pulse is steady," a human doctor nodded and added, "We should monitor her closely, but she will recover." Cole exhaled a breath he had not known he held that far. Inside the hall, the masked saboteurs fled through hidden tunnels. Guards gave chase, but the saboteurs knew the labyrinthine passages better than most. Cole had no time to pursue them. He stayed by the queen, feeling each beat of her heart. He knew that eradicating fear was more urgent than punishment. Unity now depended on demonstrating that cooperation and trust outweighed treachery. As dawn lighted the spires of Shadara, Cole helped Alari to a private chamber. Her eyes were clear, though tired, and she rested on a soft bed of woven vines. Cole adjusted blankets around her and checked the monitors that tracked the baby's health. The tiny heartbeat sounded strong, a hopeful echo in the quiet room. Alari laid a gentle hand on Cole's and whispered, "We will face this together." Cole squeezed her hand and replied, "Always, Your Majesty." Late that morning, the queen returned to the banquet hall. She walked slowly, supported by Cole's arm, and reached the dais. The crowd stood silent as she raised her head. Her voice rang out, calm and firm. "Today we faced fear and poison. Yet our people stood together to heal and protect one another. Let this betrayal remind us why unity is worth every risk." Her words echoed under the vaulted roof, and many eyes glistened with new resolve. Cole watched the assembly respond with applause. That rose gentle, then strong. Humans and Neuralians alike cheered, their hands joining as one. The hall felt alive with hope once more. Cole and Alari exchanged a look of shared determination. The path ahead would be difficult, but trust and cooperation had shown their power. And so, as the guests reclaimed their seats, Cole knew that this child born of two worlds would stand as proof that unity could conquer fear. Dawn broke over Shadara's hidden valley as Cole walked through the silent gardens toward the communication tower. The desert air was cool and still, and bioluminescent vines curled around pale stone arches. Cole carried a toolkit and spare transmitter parts. The recent sabotage had cut off all contact with human starbases, and he knew restoring communications was vital for the Queen's safety. Inside the tower, alien engineers in white robes studied smashed control panels. Cole knelt beside them and set to work. His fingers moved confidently as he swapped circuits and tightened loose wires. One engineer watched him with wide, curious eyes, then offered a simple translator device. Cole clipped it to his belt and pressed it to his ear. A calm, clear voice translated every alien term into human speech. Outside, a sudden gust of sand swept through the courtyard. Cole paused, looking up at the swirling storm clouds gathering round the twin moons. He felt a pang of worry for the Queen, who was due to arrive for her daily health scan. Without warning, the storm intensified and thick sand whipped across windows, obscuring the view of distant lanterns. Cole tightened his jacket and called to the engineers, "We need to finish quickly. The storm will reach the sanctuary soon." They nodded and redoubled their efforts. Sparks flew as Cole connected the last cable. The main console flickered, then glowed steady blue. He pressed a button, and a shimmering holo projection of the human fleet admiral appeared, speaking urgently but with relief in her tone. "Lieutenant Cole, we read you loud and clear. We're dispatching supplies and extra medics. Hold tight." Cole exhaled and allowed himself a small smile. He tapped the console again and switched the feed to a private channel. "Admiral, Queen Alari's condition is stable, but we need secure corridors and extra security. The recent attack shows. Our enemies will not rest." The Admiral's voice softened. "Understood. Reinforcements will arrive within 2 rotations. Stay safe, Lieutenant." The holo faded, leaving Cole with a steady hum of restored power as the storm raged outside. Cole gathered his tools and hurried back along lantern-lit paths toward the Queen's quarters. The wind howled, and sand struck the walls like cold rain. Cole reached the door and knocked. Inside, Queen Alari stood by the wide window, watching the swirling clouds. Her robes fluttered in the breeze that seeped through the frame. Cole stepped in and closed the door against the wind. He held out his hand. "Communications are back. We will have help soon." Alari turned, her silver hair tossed by breeze, and smiled softly. "You do more than repair machines, human," she said. "You bring hope." Cole felt warmth in his chest. He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Seconds later, a gentle chime announced the daily medical scan. Cole guided Alari to the monitoring room inside. Human doctors and alien healers worked side by side at a panel of holo slides. The unborn child's image appeared, a tiny shape glowing in soft blue. The monitors showed strong heartbeats and steady growth. The lead physician, a tall, round woman, tapped the display. "All signs are good. Baby and mother are healthy." Alari laid a hand on the glass and whispered, "I feel our child moving." Cole reached out and touched the panel near her hand. "We are both here," he said. "We both feel this life." A hush fell over the room as everyone watched the Tennyson, doubt, sabotage, and how each trial had only made their bond stronger. Alari lay her head against his shoulder. Cole wrapped his arm around her, feeling the slight curve of her belly. Between them, under the glow of floating lights, they made a quiet promise to protect this child, no matter the cost. And as the stars reflected in the still waters, Cole believed that their promise would stand. Just like the lanterns drifted, guiding weary travelers home, morning light filtered through stained glass windows as Cole and Queen Alari walked into the Grand Council chamber. The room was filled with human ambassadors in crisp uniforms and Aralan dignitaries in flowing robes. At the front, a long table bore the Treaty of Life, its pages glowing softly with bioluminescent ink. Cole felt his heart pound with pride. This treaty would grant equal protection and resources to both people's children, including the Queen's unborn child. Alari took her seat beside Cole. She laid a hand on the treaty's edge and raised her voice so all could hear. Her words were simple and clear. "We signed this treaty for our children. They will grow without fear of old grudges. They will learn side by side, speak side by side, and heal our world side by side." Her voice echoed under the vaulted ceiling. Cole watched as some faces brightened with hope, while others showed cautious relief. When the time came, Cole dipped the treaty pen into ink and placed his hand over Alari's. Together, they signed the Treaty of Life. A soft glow spread across the pages, reflecting in every eye in the chamber. The crowd broke into applause that rose gentle, then strong. Children from both species had been invited to stand before the table. They held hands and smiled, their laughter a clear promise of unity. After the signing, Cole led Alari through a corridor of cheering delegates toward the nursery pavilion. The pavilion's entrance was shaped like a great flower, its petals carved from pale stone. Inside, human and Aralan children played on colorful mats. Some built small towers of crystal blocks. Others sketched pictures of spaceships and twin suns. Cole watched as a small Aralan boy offered a drawing to a human girl. She hugged him and showed him her own art. Their joy was simple and pure. A troupe of young dancers then performed a hybrid dance. They wore cloaks of iridescent silk and moved in steps that blended human ballet with Iranian ritual. Alari's eyes glowed as she watched. Cole stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her back. He saw hope in the dancers' smiles. He thought of the child inside the queen, who would one day learn these dances as her first memory. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the pavilion floor. A loose spotlight had slipped from its mount and crashed into a table of toys. Wood splintered and plastic figures flew. Gasps filled the hall. Cole reacted instantly. He dashed forward, scooping a child from the floor before a large block fell. Alari rose and swept another child into her arms. No one was hurt, but the shock was enough to hush the room. Security officers hurried and stabilized the ejected spotlight. Cole knelt beside the fallen toys and patted the shaken children's shoulders. He spoke softly, "You are safe now." The children nodded, tears still in their eyes, then found comfort in each other's arms. Alari set down the second child and raised her voice above the silence. "This was an accident," she said. "We will fix what is broken and learn from this. We will not be afraid of small failures." Her calm strength filled the pavilion with relief. Outside, where storm clouds still lingered on the horizon, Cole and Alari addressed the crowd from a small stage. Alari spoke of courage, of trusting one another, and of laughter that follows tears. Cole added, "We will keep our children safe. This pavilion stands as proof that when we work together, we protect what matters most." Applause rose again, stronger this time, joined by cheers from every corner of the pavilion. As the sun set, Cole escorted Alari back to the sanctuary gardens. Lanterns glowed along winding paths, and fragrant blossoms released their scent into the cool air. They paused at a marble bench beside a gentle fountain. Alari laid her hand on Cole's and rested her head on his shoulder. Cole felt the soft rise and fall of her breath and thought of the child moving inside her. In the quiet, Alari spoke at last. "Today was hard, but it showed me we can face the unexpected." Cole kissed her hair and said, "We are stronger." For it, they watched fireflies drift above the water's edge, each one a tiny spark in the gathering dust. Cole's steps carried him home later that night, but his mind stayed with Alari. He thought of the treaty, the children, the dancers, and the broken spotlight. He realized that unity meant facing accidents, fear, and doubt and rising again. Somewhere in the distance, the twin moons of Shadara shone upon the sanctuary. Cole whispered a promise to the night. He would stand guard over this hope, and over the life-taking shape within the queen, and with that promise, he knew their journey toward peace would carry on. Bright as the lanterns in the dark. Cole woke before dawn, his uniform crisp despite the long night. He walked through silent corridors toward the royal birthing chamber. The sandstone walls glowed warm in the lantern light. He felt the soft hum of life in the queen's quarters. Today would be the day the galaxy held its breath. Inside the chamber, Queen Alari lay upon a low platform draped in pale silks. Round her, healers and doctors readied their instruments. Human nurses in silver gowns moved quietly alongside alien attendants in flowing white robes. A single bioluminescent orb hovered overhead, casting gentle light. Cole paused at the door, steadying his beating heart. Alari opened her eyes and smiled when she saw Cole. He stepped close. Bowing his head, she reached for his hand, her fingers warm and strong. He lifted her hand to his lips, offering silent comfort. The queen squeezed his hand, and Cole felt her trust steady him. He would not fail her. Outside the chamber, ambassadors and dignitaries gathered in a quiet hall. Screens showed soft images of the queen's medical readings. A hush fell as every heart waited for news. Human officers stood beside Aurelian nobles, their differences forgotten in shared hope. Children peered from second floors, holding hands in silent prayer. Inside, minutes stretched like hours. Cole stayed at Alari's side, speaking only when she needed comfort. The healers diverted any threat to the child. Finally, a soft cry echoed through the birthing chamber. Cole felt his breath catch. He rose and moved closer as the child emerged, half wrapped in silken thread. The infant lay upon a cushioned table, small and perfect. Half of its skin carried the queen's pale lavender hue, the other half a soft human tone. Its eyes fluttered, meeting Cole's gaze for a moment before closing again. Cole placed a gentle hand on the baby's chest and felt a rapid heartbeat, strong and sure. Alari reached out and cradled her child. Her eyes watered with joy. Cole knelt beside her, offering his own tears of relief. Their child looked like a promise made flesh. The healers laid a soft cloak round the baby, woven from human fibers and alien vines. Alari drew her child close, murmuring a lullaby in her ancient tongue. A healer stepped forward, smiling. "Both mother and child are healthy," she announced. "They will rest now." Cole lifted the queen's hand to his lips and whispered, "Our child is safe." Alari nodded, her eyes bright as twin stars. Cole felt a warmth spread through him stronger than any sunlight. The news spread swiftly. In the hall outside, a hush broke into applause and cheers. Ambassadors clasped hands and embraced. Children laughed and pointed at screens showing the first images of the newborn. Elder nobles wiped tears from their cheeks for the first time in memory. Humans in Ireland shared pure joy together. Later, Cole and Alari stepped onto a balcony. Above the sanctuary gardens, their child slept in a cradle beside them. Lanterns floated on marble ponds, and the night air held the scent of blooming blossoms. The twin moons shone overhead, framing the new family in gentle light. Alari leaned against Cole's shoulder and gazed at their child. Cole wrapped his arm around her, and as the music swelled, Cole pressed a kiss to Alari's hand. Together, they watched the galaxy take its first steps toward peace through their child. And under the twin moons of Shadara, a new life began, a living bridge between two worlds, carrying the promise of a brighter tomorrow.